All right, good morning. I am taping. Today is Monday, the 13th of March, day 42 for our AWD1000 Web Development Technologies class. As it says here, today I'm going to be going over the pretest that I created for you. In addition, I'm going to give you a couple of the other things. The first thing that we go over today, I'm not going to save as part of my repo. All right, why? Because basically it's problems almost from the test. All right, and I don't want to do that. So, but we will go over several of those, probably for about the first 10 or 15 minutes. And after that, we're going to go over the pretest from top to bottom, so to speak. Tomorrow will be the hands-on test. I will have the test emailed to you by 7 a.m. tomorrow. I will go over it. We should be able to do that in no more than 10 minutes. So from 8:05 a.m. till 8:15 a.m. tomorrow. Wednesday, as it says, in fact, now that I look at it, that's of course screwed up because it's not me unless I make a mistake. That should say 4 and 5. That should not say 5 and 6. I apologize for that. Now fix it later. All right. So we will go over chapter 4. And if there's enough time, we'll get into 5. Whatever we don't finish from 5, we'll finish on Thursday and also go over chapter 7 at that time. We're going to skip chapter 6 until next week. It's going to get its own test. It's going to get its own set of lectures. Friday will be our typical lab period. And as it says here, again, your JavaScript chapters 1 to 3 written test labs and homework are due the Sunday coming up. All right, 6 days from now on the 19th, and 4, 5, and 7 will be due the week after that. So with all that said, let's just get started. The first thing that I want to do is, like I said, I'm going to go over this pretest with you. But first, I want to go over some loop-specific stuff because there's at least a few things that I did not really discuss with you earlier. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a new folder and I'm just going to call it loops. All right. And in that new folder, I'm going to open it. Well, in fact, before I even open it up, let's open it up this way. And as always, we will create our JS folder. That JS folder will have in it a file that will be called scripts.js. I will make a CSS folder, even though I'm probably not going to put anything in it. And that CSS folder will have a file. That's what I probably won't put anything in, but styles.css. And finally, I will create my index.html file. All right, finally, I will come back to this loops folder that I just created, and I want to open that up with Visual Studio Code. So I'm doing that right now. There we go. All right, so I'm going to start this the way I always do, in that I'm going to put in my exclamation point here and hit tab, and we'll put in here loops, and also I'll add in here my link tag where we will link to CSS, styles.css. And since we had some problems with this last week, I'm just going to put my script tag right here. Like that. All right. So as always, I like to just do a little quick test just to make sure everything's working. So in my JS file, I'm just going to put in an alert here that says hello. All right. And when I come in here and I run now, it should just come up with the alert that says hello if all is working okay. And there it is. Okay, good. So let's go in and start doing some stuff with loops. Now, the first couple things are going to be review, but I'm doing them on purpose because there's a couple things I forgot to mention the other day, so I want to mention them now. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to declare and initialize. I need my comments. I'm going to declare and initialize my program constants. I'm going to have two of them for now, and I'll call them start, and I'll set it equal to 1. And I'll have another one I'll call end, and I'll set that equal to 100. All right. In addition, I'm going to declare and initialize my program variables. And for now, I'll just have one. So I'm going to call it output str. It's going to be my output string, and it'll be initialized to nothing. Now, again, I'm going to very quickly show you, because I want to make sure you know how to do this. And that is, what I'm going to do here is print out the numbers from 1 to 100 using a while loop. All right, and I'm just going to grab this because we're going to do it 3 times. We're going to do it using a while loop, then using a do while loop, and then using a for loop, so you can see all of them. All right, so very simple, 2 or 3 lines of code for let I'm not even going to use LCV. I'm just going to call it I equals start, which is the same thing as saying I equal 1. I less than or equal to end, which is again the same thing as saying I less than or equal to 100, plus plus I. And then I'm going to come in here and say output str plus equals I plus a blank space. Now, all I want to do here is to just say alert output str. Now, what I'm concerned with, though, is you understanding, not you, Grant, so much, but everybody who's watching this understanding exactly what we're saying here. And that is, we're telling it to go from 1 to 100, and then we're telling it to print out a 1 and then a space. Then the next time through a 2 and then a space, then a 3 and then a space, all the way up to 100. All right, and then we're just alerting that out. Now it will word wrap, all right, because it can't fit all 100 of them on one line, but technically it's treating it as though it was on one line. So let me do a file save all here, go back to here and run it. And there's my numbers from 1 to 100. And again, this is not meant to have you say, oh, gee, but I just want to make sure you understand the difference between the 3 loops. All right, I'm not going to do this, but if I went in here and changed this from, let's say, I don't know, 1,000, it wouldn't run at all because you can't go forward from 1,000 to 100. It wouldn't make any sense to do that. All right, so let's go back and grab this again. All right, so I guess I did that using a for loop, not a while. So that was a for loop. So let's do it now using a while, and then we'll do the do while. All right, so I'm going to grab this. In fact, I'm going to take this line here, okay, that did the alert, and I'm going to comment that line out because I'm going to redo it down here. Now we want to make changes. What changes do we want to make to convert this from a for loop to a while loop? Well, the first thing we'll do is we'll say here, let I equal start. Right there. All right. And then this will become while I is less than or equal to end. Like that. We'll print it, we'll grab the number and then we'll say I plus plus. Now, what should happen here, make this a little smaller. So now you can see, come on, you can see them both here. All right, and you can kind of compare, contrast the two ways. But what that should do is it should give me the exact same output. Remember, when we use a for loop, we do the initialization, the test, and the increment or decrement on the same line. When we use a while loop, we do the Typically, you do the initialization outside of the loop, then you test, and inside of the loop, you do your increment or decrement. So if this works, I should have the same exact output that I had just a couple minutes ago. And let's see if indeed it does. So I'm going to do a save all, come back to here. And there it is. All right, now it looks like it did it twice. Well, I know why it did that, because I screwed up. Let's come back in here. We've already went from 1 to 100 here. We already did that. So before we start right here, let's take output string and reset it back to 0. All right, because we went from 1 to 100 here. I should have probably just commented this whole thing out, but it's okay. So that's a save all. Let's go back to here. And now it should look just the same as the last one. There it is. The numbers from 1 to 100. And again, nothing new there. All right. You'll notice too, I've got the number 0 in there because I started this at 0. All right. In fact, let's see. 1 equals start. Nope. It was when we reset it here back equal to nothing, that's where it became 0. All right. But it's no biggie. I just want you to understand, because you are asked on the test to do a question with a for loop. You are asked on the test to do a question with a while loop. So I want to make sure you can do both of them. All right. Let's go back and redo this one last time. And let's do this as a do while loop. So again, we're going to reset this. All right. We again can come in and say I equals start. That's fine. But now we take this and we get that outside of the loop and we put the word do here. And then we put the word while right there. You can put a semicolon on the end. All right. This should again give us the exact same output as what we had before. Exactly the same. All right, so let's do a save all and let's go back and run it again. And there's our numbers. All right, so again, I get everything from this case, I guess 0 to 100. All right, so you should, I don't think there's anything on the test. I don't believe there is with a do while. All right, but at least you've now seen all 3 of them. All right, now what I'm going to show you next, you have not seen before. All right, it may have been in the chapter and I didn't go over it, or it may not be it may not have even been in the chapter, but I want you to see it. All right, and that is, I'm going to grab this for loop that's right here. And again, I'm going to comment out every alert that I have in here. Oops. All right, so all of the alerts are now commented out. So let's go back into here and I'm going to grab this. All right. And again, I'm going to reset output string to nothing. Now, I'm going to print out the numbers from 1 to 17. But what I want to do is not really print out the numbers from 1 to 17, or to 100 rather. When I get to 17, I want to break. So try to print out numbers from 1 to 100 using a for loop with a break statement when I equals 17. All right. So we're printing all this stuff out here, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in an if that says if I equal 17, break. Just like that. All right, so what should actually print out now are just the numbers from 1 to 16 because break gets you out of the loop. All right, so literally once it hits this, it should break out of this loop and come to right here. There's nothing there, but that's, well, I guess I better put the alert output string. All right, but let's see if it only prints out 1 to 16. And you'll notice, yes, it does. That's exactly what it does. That's exactly what we wanted to have happen. All right. So break gets you out of any loop that you happen to be in. All right. Now, what if for some goofy reason, I can't tell you why, but what if instead of doing this, all right, we came in here and I'm going to just grab all of this, every bit of it. And again, I'm going to comment this out. And I'm going to come down here. I'm going to paste it in again. But now I'm going to put a continue statement here. So this will say continue. All right. Let's take a look and see what happens when we do that. All right. Now you might say nothing happened. You'd be wrong, because it says here 1, 2, 3, 4 through 14, 15, 16, 18. When you put a continue statement inside of a loop like that, when you put in a continue statement, all right, what happens here is it comes through, it runs it, 1 through 16, then it says, oh, I equals 17, continue. So what continue says is skip everything else down to the bottom of the loop and go back up to the top. So it skips the adding 17 to the output string, and it goes back up to the top, and it increments it so it's now 18. So if for some reason you don't want to print out a certain value, if for some reason you don't want to print out a certain value, all right, that is one way that you can do it. Okay, let's go just do a couple more, because like I said, I'm almost done with this, but I wanted to make sure that you at least heard this stuff. So I'm going to come in here again, and I'm going to come down just as we've been doing. All right, now let's assume, and again, very similar to a problem you're going to see on your test. All right, so I'm going to say here, assume we want to print out 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. Just those numbers. All right, so in increments of 10. All right. Well, what's the cheating way to do it? Well, you already kind of know the cheating way to do it would be to not use a loop, would be to just basically come in there and do an alert 10 times. You could do that, and it would work just fine. You could do that. All right. But let's talk about a better way of doing it. So rather than starting here with start, let's start with 10. And rather than adding 1 to it every time, let's say I plus equal 10. And let's get rid of this statement that's here. So now what are we doing? We're saying start at 10, go until 100, and add 10 every time. All right. So let's look at that. Whoa. Let's see, did I leave one of those uncommented? I did not go back and say output str equals nothing. And really, rather than nothing, since I'm putting numbers in there, I really should change them all to 0, but it works just fine like that too. So file, save all, and let's try it again. And there you go, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. All right. I real quickly, just so you see it, I want you to see a couple of other ways we could do this. All right. So I'm going to grab everything we just did here. Everything. I'm going to comment this out. Come down here a few lines, paste it in again. Now, what I'm about to do here is a little bit of overkill, but I just want you to see that it's another way of doing it. So I'm going to again start at 1, which is start. All right, I'm again going to end with end, and I'm again going to add 1 to it. All right, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if I modulo 10 equal 0, again, that's saying if it's divisible by 10, then I want to add it to this output string. Just like that. Now, again, like I said, that's a little bit of overkill. All right, but it's another way of doing it. So let's see if indeed that works. All right, so this was commented out. So this is our alert right here. And again, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. All right, finally, I want to show you one last way of doing this. All right, again, I am not repeat. I am not trying to waste my time or your time, but these are going to be things similar to some of the questions that are on tomorrow's test. All right, so I'm going to do this one last time. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it around a little bit. All right, I'm going to grab this statement and I'm going to put it in here, down there, but I'm going to change my test and I'm going to say if I modulo 10 is not equal to 0, then we want to skip it. We already know how to skip it by using the word continue. So again, this is saying go from 1 to 100. And if the current number you're checking is not evenly divisible by 10, just keep going. But once it reaches 10, 10 is divisible by 10. All right. So it's going to skip this and it's going to add it to output string. So I should get the exact same answers. I should get the exact same answers. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. All right. So let's do a file, save all, jump back here, and run it again. And you can see that's exactly what I get. All right. So that should help you. I think there's 5 questions on the test. And on those 5 questions, a couple of them literally are kind of like the examples I just showed you. And the weird thing is, because Mr. Smith made this test a couple years ago, and I'm not blaming him at all. It's totally fine. But those 2 questions where you have to do 2 loops, I think that's 40 out of the 100 points on the test. And literally each one of them is just a couple lines long. All right. Now, Grant, I'm taking for granted that for you, that was kind of review, that you probably don't have any questions. If you do, feel free to ask. But, like I said, my guess is that probably, yeah, that makes sense. All right.
No,
okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So let's come in here. And what I want to do now is I'm going to take everything that I've done so far, everything. Every single bit that's in here. And for now, at least, I'm just commenting it out. Everything. All right. And I want to show you an example with arrays. Why? Because again, here's a hint. This is similar to one of the questions that's on tomorrow's test. All right. You may or may not have noticed this. That's my granddaughter. And she found out about a month ago she's going to be a big sister. She's going to have a little brother in August. The reason I'm telling you that is what I decided to do for an example, for an example was to use that basically as an example. So what do I mean? Oh boy, oh boy. I want to show you exactly what I mean right here. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say output str equals nothing. You've seen this before. Now, she found out the baby is going to be a boy. They won't let any of us know what names they've chosen. Okay. So I came up with my own. So I'm going to say let baby boy names equal, and we're going to set up in an array of strings. And his name is Brian, my daughter's husband. All right. Brian's dad's name is Perry, and you know my name. All right. I'd say the chances of the baby being named Perry or Jeffrey are almost zero, but just play along if you would. All right. So right now, if I come in here and do this for let I equal 0, I less than baby boy names dot length plus I. Okay. And then we come in here and we say output str plus equal, and we'll put in here, let's see, baby boy names I. Remember, I is just a placeholder, plus a blank space. All right. Then after that, we come in and we do an output string, an alert on our output string. Now, if I didn't screw up, it should look just like this right here with no double quotes and no commas. So it should say Brian space, Perry space, Jeffrey, if I did it right, or Jeffrey space. So let's see if I did do it right. Brian, Perry, Jeffrey. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted to show. All right. Now we're not done yet, but I wanted to show you that to begin with. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to move it down here. Okay. Why? You'll see why. Let's assume that they decide that we've got these 3 names, but we want to have some more. All right. So I'm going to put a prompt in here. I'm going to say let, and I'm going to call it num names equal parse int prompt number of names to add to list. And we'll say we'll just default it to be 2. Okay. So when we run this, it's going to say, how many names do you want to add to the list? And it'll default it to 2. All right. We're going to assume you have to put a number in there. And the smallest number you can put in there is 1. So I'm going to say here, while is NaN num name. So while you put in something illegal, all right, so while you put in something that is not a number, or the number of names is less than 0, those are error conditions. So I'm going to put in an alert that says invalid entry, please try again. All right, and then we're going to just grab this. We don't want the let in there. We've already declared it. We just want this. All right, so now I'm going to come down here and I'm going to do an alert. And I'm just going to say num names equal, and we'll say plus num names. And in fact, this is a fine way to do it, but let's do it using those template literals that we talked about. All right, so I'm going to do it like this, and I can say num names equal, and now I just put this inside of curly braces. So if I run this and I put in here 4, it should come down and say num names equal 4. Let's see if it does. All right, so add how many names. Notice if I put in something that's non-numeric. It says invalid entry, please try again. If I put in a negative number, it says the same thing, invalid entry, please try again. And if I say 4, it says, whoa, something's wrong in there. Okay, invalid entry, please try again. So let's fix that before we go on. So while it's not a number or the number of names is less than 0, parse int. Well, that's interesting. I'm trying to figure out why that would give us that, but let's save it, try it again. And I'll put in a 4, and it's saying invalid entry. Well, let's see if we can do some debugging. All right, but it still is telling us to not add the number of names, but it's still saying invalid entry. You see something I did wrong, please let me know. Totally fine. All right, so while num names is not numeric or num names is less than 0, we did the parse int there, prompt, number of names to add to list. We defaulted it to 2. It shouldn't matter whether we put in the 2 like that or like this. That shouldn't matter. All right. So while, because we're doing a parse int on it. So while it's this or it's this, all right, that's okay. It did work that time. It said num names equal num names. We'll fix that in a moment. I know why that's not working. It's not working because remember, in an alert, you can't use your template literals. All right, you have to do it like this. All right, so num names equal alert num names equal plus num names. All right, so let's see now if it works. 4. Still saying invalid entry. Try again. 4. Well, it took 1. It says num names equal 1. Brian, Perry, Jeffrey. Well, it's working fine, except when I put 4 in there for some reason, it didn't like that. While it's not numeric or the number of names, so num names, that is correct, is less than 0, it's telling us that it's invalid. Why would it be telling us if we put a 4 in there that it's invalid? What if we put in a 2? Invalid entry. All right. But it takes 1. That is weird. While it's not numeric or it's less than 0, should be less than or equal to 0, but that doesn't matter. All right. Huh. It's taking 1 without a problem. Not sure what the problem is. Let's just do it this way for now, because this is really actually not that important in the mainstream of things. We're just going to say while it's not numeric. Okay, we're going to just do it like that. Now I want to see if we put that in. And I come in here and put in 4. Why would it be doing that? Oh, it has no problem with 1. Let's see. Let num names equal parse in prompt number of names to add to the list. Let's not even put in a default value. All right. Two. Well, it took that. Well, it's taking that. I don't know why, for some reason, it didn't like that other part of the check. It's okay. All right, because that's not at all what I want to show you. I want to keep going on in here. So we've declared an array. This is a string array. It's got 3 names in it. We ask, how many names would you like to add to that list? If you put in something non-numeric, it doesn't take it. So once we get down to here, and I'm going to just comment out that line right now. So once we get out to line, to line 117 there, we have a number, a value in there for number of names. All right. So we could print out those names now, but I don't want to. We already are doing that at the bottom. All right. Okay. So if we go in here now, we know exactly how many times we want to, or how many names we want to add. All right. Because that's in num names. Okay. Nothing new there. That's not a surprise. So I'm going to make another for loop here that says for let I equal baby boy names dot length. So I'm going to start there. I'm going to start at 3 because there's 3 names in there. And while I is less than num names. Okay, so if I do put in 2, it should be allowing me to add 2 names. Okay, I mean, that should make sense. All right. So who cares? Well, the reason that I want you to care is there's 2 things I want to show you here. All right, I'm going to come in here and do this. I'm going to say new name equals, and I'm going to put in here another prompt. And I'm going to say enter new baby name. Okay. And that's going to be put in the new name, but it's possible. So if somebody puts 73 in there, that's a very stupid name, but it's going to take it. But what I don't want this to take, what I do not want this to take right now, I don't want it to take blanks. So you might think, I could type this while new name equal a blank. All right, while it's equal to nothing, then I could just, just like we did before, I could do an alert and I could say invalid new name, try again. And just bring this thing back down. All right, and that should actually be a let there because I'm just declaring it right there. All right, so I want to tell you what's wrong with this. Okay, technically it's not wrong, but it's not complete. So let's see if we can get down to this point in here. We're almost finished with this part. All right, so I'm going to say we want to add 2 names. Okay, well, right now, what didn't it like? Something. All right, for I equal baby boy names dot length, which should have been 3, I less than O. Okay, the problem is I'm saying 3 while it's less than 2. All right, so we can do this. We can just go back and do this. We can say while it's equal to 0 and it's less than num names. All right, this should allow us to enter those 2 names into there. All right, so file, save all. And the good news is my screw ups are actually allowing me to say a few things in here. So 2 names, enter baby boy name, Bob, enter another boy baby named Bill. And it doesn't do anything with them. That's good. But what I want to show you is this. What if I run it again and I hit the space bar once and I do it, it says invalid entry. Well, that's good. How about if I hit it a few times? It says invalid entry. Well, that's good. All right. JavaScript is smarter than most programming languages. And what I mean is, in most programming languages, when you put this in like this, and you put in nothing like we just did right here, so while it's equal to nothing, you should say this, dot trim, because that trims any leading blank spaces or any trailing blank spaces. All right. And that's important. All right. So we're going to keep you stuck in here while you put in nothing or you hit the space bar or whatever. So when we get down to here, you actually have a new name. So what do we want to say? We want to add this to our list of names. So I'm going to go and we'll add 4 names so you can see it, but I want to come in here and say baby boy names, baby boy names dot length equal new name. Now, originally we had 3 names in there. Name 0 was Brian, name 1 was Perry, name 2 was Jeff. That's element 0, 1, and 2, but there are 3 elements. So what we're saying is for our next element, put in the new name and do it for as many times as we have names in here. So what should happen now, I'm going to come in here and do this. And that is I'm going to print out like we did. And we're going to say in here, we'll just put in here. That's fine. We'll do it just like this. So file, save all, and then let's run it. And it shows us the 3 names, exactly what we think we'd get. Then it says, how many do you want to add? 4. All right, so we're going to put in 4 names. We'll put in John, Ronald, Benjamin, and Mark. And now notice what we have in here. All right, these are the original ones, but Brian, Perry, Jeffrey, John, Ronald, Benjamin, and Mark. So what I'm trying to get across to you here is this is how we can come in and we can add in here. This is how we can come in and add elements to an array. And hint, hint, you are going to be asked to do that for one of the questions on the test. What I have basically done thus far is I have given you the entire test. You have everything that's on the test. All right. Now you're going to be using different numbers and the like, but again, probably a lot of review for you, Grant. Any questions on this?
No, not right now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let me get rid of these. And then let's take a look very quickly here. This was the pretest. So I'm going to do these 2 problems. So in the first one, very similar to one of the ones that was actually in our HTML, CSS textbook, we're doing a BMI problem. Okay. Even if you don't totally understand this, the reason I'm showing you these 2 problems is I'm writing them and I'm putting everything, boom, 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 boom. We'll have maybe 100 lines or so in here, but it's just going to go from top to bottom. Then when we get into chapter 4, starting Wednesday, we're going to go back later then, and we're going to look at this same program, and we're going to rebuild the program, and we're going to rebuild it using what are called functions. All right. So they'll be like basically taking our code and then breaking it down into units. All right. We're going to do this for all of these examples that are on here. So we want to be able to read in a number and then figure out based on that number whether the person is underweight, optimal weight, overweight, or obese for their height. In addition, we want to figure out the total number of people we had that were underweight, the total number of people we had that were optimal weight, the total number of people we had that were overweight, and the total number of people we had that were obese. So that's what we're going to do. All right. So as we get started, this will be the first one. And I guess we were told to call this BMI.html, and we were told to call this BMI.js. All right, so there it is. So I'm going to open that up in code right now. This will be part of the saved repo that you will get at the end of class today. All right, so there it is. And I'm adding BMI.css, which was there, even though I'm not going to use anything, and BMI.js right here. All right, and we put that into the body. All right, so let me jump into the BMI. In fact, we don't need anything else in here. Into the BMI.js. And all I have in here, I went in and I copied in everything that we had in there for our requirements. That's it. Okay, so there's nothing new in here, but you'll have those now for your requirements. So I'm going to start writing the code here. All right, I'm going to start writing the code. When I get to 9 o'clock, which is 9 minutes, we'll take 10 minutes. We'll come back. We'll finish this one. As soon as we finish that, we'll jump right in to doing the guessing game one. Then when we get done, I want to show you another one that I created with some array number examples, just so you see all of this stuff. All right, that should put us in good shape for taking the test tomorrow. All right, so we'll start with the constants. We could have as many of these constants as we want. It's totally up to us. We can have, again, as many of these things in here as we want, or we can have as few of these in here as we want. But we are told to put a few things in here, such as the maximum weight. In fact, let's start with min. The minimum weight that somebody can be is going to be, I think it was 1 pound. All right. So we'll make that 1 pound. The maximum weight that somebody could be, and these are just numbers I made up, and that is going to be equal to 777. All right. It's interesting. I watched part of the Oscars yesterday. I have not seen the movie Whale, but I saw Brendan Fraser when they were showing the clips. Sure looked a lot different when he was heavier. So in our height, we're going to say that somebody is at least 12 inches. And at the most, we're going to say they could be 8 feet tall, which is 96 inches. All right. Now, one thing I want you to understand about this, and that is this. These right here, those are our criteria. So that's what we're going to measure in there. So if somebody has a BMI that's under 18, they are underweight. If their BMI is greater than or equal to 18, but less than 25, their optimal weight. If their BMI is greater than or equal to 25, but less than 30, they're overweight. And if their BMI is more than 30 or more, they're obese. Why am I telling you that? Because there's some hidden values in here, and they are 18.5, 25, and 30. We can make our checks a little more readable by coming in here and adding a few more of these constants. So I put in another constant here that was called min optimal, and I set that equal to 18.5. And what that is that's the minimum weight that somebody, or minimum, that's the minimum BMI somebody can be and be considered optimal weight. So we could come in here and put in comments. So, oops. So minimum weight allowed. And then copy that a bunch of times. And this would be maximum weight allowed. This would be the minimum height allowed. This would be the maximum height allowed. All right. And then we can come in here and say like minimum optimal weight BMI. All right, then I'm going to make it another one here that's going to be const, and I'm going to call it min over. So that's the minimum you can be to be overweight, and that was 25.0. And I'm going to say here, minimum overweight BMI. Let's fix these. All right, and then finally we'll have another one, const min obese, and that'll be equal to 30.0, and that'll be minimum obese BMI. All right, so that's two of them. Now, I'm going to add two more constants here. I'm going to add two more constants. One of them is going to be if we put in a height that's out of weight. We want to tell them that the height must be between 12 and 96. And the other one is for the weight being out of whack. And we want to tell them that the weight must be between 1 and 777. We can call them whatever we want, but I'm going to call them what they are. So the first one will be OOR for out of range, weight, OOR weight, and that's going to be equal to weight must be between, and I'll put in here, min weight and max weight. All right, let me move this down. I'll put it all on its own line so you can see all of it. So that is going to be the message that I will want to print out when somebody puts in a weight that is, non-numeric or out of range. All right, so that's the first one. And let's just copy this. And that'll be our OORH for height. And everywhere we're using weight, we just want to change it to height. All right. And my guess is, I don't remember for sure, Grant, you don't have to say anything, but we may have done this program also in the C# class. We are going to do it, those of you who are taking the C# class in summer. We will do the same program. All right. So there we declared and we initialized our program constants. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 constants. Next, we want to do our program variables. So we're going to say let height, and we'll set that equal to 0. Let weight, we'll set that equal to 0. Let BMI, we'll set that equal to 0.0. Let BMI status, that's going to be the word overweight. I'm sorry, the word underweight, the word optimal weight, the word overweight, or the word obese. So we'll set that to the empty string. Let output str, that'll be equal to nothing. We're going to do the same kind of thing we did the other day. We're going to say again equals nothing. Let first char, that'll be equal to nothing. And we'll again have let run again, and we'll set that equal to true, meaning yes, we want to run the program again. Now, I could keep going here and keep writing comments like we wrote up here, but we'd never get done, and I want to get done. So that's what we have here. All right. Now, every time we run the program, when we put in a valid height and a valid weight, it's going to figure out the person's BMI, and it's going to add to one of those, what we call accumulators. So we're going to have 4 accumulators, one for our total number of underweight people, one for our total number of optimal weight people, one for our total number of overweight people, and one for our total number of obese people. All right. So they are variables, but I just put this in here so you could see this. So I'm going to declare and initialize program accumulators. They are accumulating as the program is going. All right, so let me add these, then we'll take a break. So let total underweight, set that equal to 0. Total optimal weight, we'll set that equal to 0. We don't even need that semicolon. All right, and we'll have two more. Total overweight, we'll set that equal to 0. And total obese, we'll set that equal to 0. All right. And then when we come back, we're going to do everything inside of this loop. So while run again, and curly brace, and then end our curly. So let's take a break right now. It is 9:01. Let's take till 9:12. It's almost there. It's 9:02. Let's take till 9:12 and we'll finish this one up. All right, it is 9:12, so I'm going to go on. When you think about this, there's probably about a half dozen things we want to do here. Maybe a little more, but we'll see right now. We want to input and validate the weight. And it doesn't matter which one of these we do first. There's really no difference, but I'll just put the weight here. Then when we get done with that, we want to input and validate the height. And after we do that, then we want to calculate the BMI. And after we do that, we want to calculate the BMI status, again, underweight, overweight, etc. All right. We want to ask the user if they want to run the program again. We want to do all that stuff in this while loop. And then once we fall out of the while loop, all right, then we want to print out our accumulators. And I guess I forgot that in here because after we calculate the status, we want to print out the weight, the height, the BMI, and the BMI status. Also, we want to increment whatever accumulator we have. Okay, so that's what we have to do in here. Now, the good news is these two things are virtually identical to one another. The only difference is after I write the first one, I've got to change my W for weight to H for height. All right, but other than that, they're the same thing. So I'm going to come in here and say weight, weight equal parse. We could do a parse float, but typically when you say how much does somebody weigh, they don't say I weigh 175 3/4 pounds. Well, so we'll just do a parse int. And then we'll do a prompt in here and it'll say, please enter weight between, and I forgot my double quotes. That's why it's giving me these errors. Let's put those in. So please enter weight between. All right, I'm going to put this over 2 lines. All right, and we'll put here min weight and max weight pounds. So if I wrote that correctly, and I think I did, it should come in and say, please enter a weight between 1 and 777 pounds. That's exactly what we want. So that's going to allow us to input the weight. Now we have to validate it. So while is NaN weight, or just put it over 3 lines here, weight less than min weight, or weight greater than max weight. Well, I know if it's one of those 3 things, we put in a weight that is invalid. It's either not numeric, or it is less than 1, or it is greater than 777. All right, so basically that's the input the weight part. And this is the validate the weight part. And if they do put in something that's out of range, we just want to ask them to do it again. Right there. All right. So that should handle everything as far as inputting the weight and validating the weight right there. So let's grab this, copy it to the clipboard, and put it in here. And now, so we've already, this is the weight. So now let's go in and do the height. So I want to input the height. This is where it gets really dangerous, so to speak, when you do a lot of copy and pasting. Because if I forget one of these, it's going to be goofed up if I forget to change one or more of them. All right, so that should be the first part, inputting the weight, validating the weight, inputting the height, validating the height. So now we should be able to come in and calculate the BMI. That's pretty simple. We're given the formula right up here. There it is. I'm going to write it twice because there's at least two ways you can do it. And you should use the one that you'd be the most comfortable with. So we can do it just like that. Totally fine. Weight divided by height times height. But the other way we can write it if we want to is instead of this like that, we can type in math.pow height 2. And that's the same thing as saying height times height. That's how you raise something to a power. All right, I'm going to leave that one in there, and I'm going to comment out the other one. Okay. All right, so now we have come in, we have inputted our weight and validated it, inputted our height and validated it, calculated the BMI. So now we got to calculate the status. So if the BMI is less than the min optimal, meaning it's less than or equal to 18, again, that's the same thing as saying less than, I'm sorry, not less than or equal to, just less than 18.5. Well, we know they're underweight. So BMI status equal underweight, plus we can also now come in and add 1, so plus to our total underweight. All right, so now we've handled somebody who is less than or equal to, say it again, less than, not less than or equal to, somebody who is less than 18.5 with their BMI. Else, if the BMI is less than min over, and remember that means that it's less than 25.0. So if that's the case, the BMI status is equal to optimal weight. And we want to add 1 to the total optimal weight category. So that's those two. Next, if the BMI is less than the min obese, meaning that it is less than 30.0, all right, then we know that their BMI status is overweight, and we want to add 1 to total overweight. And the only thing that's left is obese. So we can come in here and say else like that. So now we have gone in, we have inputted the weight and validated it, inputted the height and validated it, calculated our BMI, and calculated our BMI status. All right. So now, as it says, we want to print out the weight, the height, the BMI status. Well, I've got increment accumulator. We already did that. All right. So we can print this out in a lot of different ways. I'm going to use that output str, and I'm going to say that is equal to at the beginning. All right. And we will come in here and use the template literals. You should just get used to using these. So weight all right, so that'll print out the person's weight, and we want a blank line after that. So there's 1. In fact, I'm going to do this 4 times. All right, so there's the weight. Then I want to say here plus equal, and we want to add the height. All right. And then let's come in here. See it, do that. BMI. Now with the BMI, I don't want it to be some ungodly number after the decimal place. So I'm going to say BMI dot to fixed, and we'll do it to 2 decimal places. All right. And then finally, we'll put in here status. Status. Okay. And that is BMI status. Now, all right, what I should be doing, what I haven't been doing, but should be, is when we wrote a little bit of code like this, we really should have come back in there then and tested it. All right, because of the way I wrote this, I'm not testing it till the end, which is not a good way to write stuff. Okay, now that I've got all that stuff in my output string, I want to do an alert of output str, otherwise I wouldn't see it. And now, just like we've been doing, we can say again, equal prompt, run program again, and then the old yes or no. We can, if we want to, default this, and I'll just default it to Y for yes. All right, again, equals again dot to uppercase, and then first char equals again dot char at 0, and finally if first char is not equal to a Y, well, we know that we put in something other than a Y for yes. So run again is equal to false. All right. And now there's only one more thing we want to do, and that is once we fall out of our loop, okay, we want to again, so let's clear out. So I'm going to say our output str is equal to nothing now. We're out of the loop. And we'll just say plus equal again a bunch of times. And we'll again use our backticks for our template literals. So total number underweight persons. And again, just like before, we've got 4 of these. So the next will be our total number of optimal weight persons. All right. Then we need our total number of overweight persons. And finally, our total number of obese persons. All right, now that's a lot. That's probably the biggest thing I've typed in here this semester. All right, but let's save it and then run it and see if it works. Now I'm going to run it first and try to, rather than testing my errors, I'm going to see if the stuff that's supposed to work works. So I'm going to say you weigh 111 pounds. You are 72 inches tall. Your status is underweight. All right. And it says run it again. Well, something screwed up in there. That's okay. We'll fix that in a minute. Yes, we want to run it again. So again, we'll say now 177 pounds and you're 72 inches. That should be optimal weight, and it is. Okay. And then we'll run it again. 72 inches, 200 pounds. That should be overweight. Oh, that was the height. So 72 inches. Well, I screwed that up. So yes. And we'll say the weight should be 200 and the height should be 72. That's overweight. Yes. And finally, we'll say that the weight is 333 and the height is 72, and that should be obese. And it is. I don't want to run it again. And I guess I don't have my alert in there either. So let's fix all those. So. Plus equals, I forgot the plus equal here, and I forgot the plus equal there. And lastly, I forgot in here to say alert output str. So let's save it, run it one more time with all good values. So I'm going to put in one of each type. So I'm going to say you're 111 pounds and you're 72 inches tall. All right, as you can see, 1505 underweight, that's good. We'll do it again and say you're 177 pounds, 72 inches. You should be optimal, and you are. Do it again and say that you are 200 pounds, 72 inches, should be overweight, and you are. Finally, we'll say you're 333 pounds, 72 inches, that should be obese, and it is. We won't run it anymore, and it should show us one of each type, and it does. So when we put in valid data, it works. Let's quickly check our invalid data, and then we'll go on to the next problem. So if I put in here something non-numeric, it just says to enter it again. If I put something out of range, so if I put in 0, it says to do it again. 778, which is out of range, it says do it again. All right, so we'll just put in here 60. Now we'll try the height things. 11 should be out of range, and it is. 97 should be out of range, and it is. Nothing shouldn't take that, and shouldn't take that. All right, so for height, if we put in 60, okay, it all appears to be working. And if I put in here right away, nothing, good. Everything worked. All right. So I don't want to waste a lot of time here. There's still two more that we have to go over. But again, it's a natural type of pattern here. And what I mean is we come in here, we declare our constants, we declare our variables, we put the program into a loop. We don't know how many times we want to run the program. Since we do not know how many times we want to run the program, all right, since we don't know that, we cannot use a for loop. So we're using a while loop in here. All right, and we are inputting the weight, then validating it, inputting the height, and then validating it, calculating our BMI because we now have a valid weight and a valid height. Again, there were two different ways at least that you can do that. Then we calculate the status based on the BMI we just calculated. If it's less than 18.5, you're underweight. If it's between 18.5 but less than 25, you're optimal weight. If it's between 25 but less than 30, you're overweight. And if it's greater than 30, greater than or equal to 30, you are obese. All right. And then we print out everything that we've calculated, meaning the height, the weight, the BMI, and the BMI status. We ask the user if they want to run the program again. So we can do that as many times as we want to. All right. That is everything. And then once we fall out, we print out our accumulators or our final totals. So again, as mentioned previously, Grant, to somebody like you, that's probably a lot of review. Any questions in there in this thing that we just went through that you had?
No, except for some syntax differences. This is pretty similar to what we did in C#.
Right. And that's one of the reasons I like to do the same program in more than one language, because being a programmer, very little of the programming part of being a programmer is syntax. Being a successful programmer is being able to take logic. And I mean, maybe I've told you guys this already, I don't know. But I worked for 3.5 years as a programmer. Then I went into education. I worked in education for 3.5 years and then went back into industry. When I went back into industry, I was asked to create an order entry system for this aerospace company that I was working for. And I said, what language do you want it in? And they said, what do you know? And at the time, there were probably 10 languages I used fairly regularly. So I listed all of them. And they said, yep, that's fine. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, you can use any of them you want. It doesn't matter. Just pick one and use that. We use all those here. But the idea was, regardless of which one I would have picked, the logic to create that order entry system was the same. All right. Okay. So that's the first one. All righty. And we're going to do two more. So the next one will be this guessing game program. So again, I'm opening it up with code. All right. I think, what do we call this? Still scripts. No, it's still styles. We'll do this. I'm going to rename all of these. So I'm going to rename this one guess.css. I'm going to rename this one guess.js, and I'm going to rename this one guess.html. Now, it is standard practice that if you have only one file, it should be indexed, but it doesn't hurt anything to make it guess. It doesn't really matter at all. These have to be changed then to guess. And I will again pull this one out of here. And I'll put it in the body. And again, we'll say yes. All right, so this is number 2 again, the guessing game. All right, so file save all. Let's go and bring up guess.js. And just as previously, what I've done is I've come in here and just made the comments. That's it. There's nothing else in here but these comments. So write a program that generates a random number between 1 and 100, ask the user to guess the number and keep track of how many guesses it took them. When they make a wrong guess, tell them it was either too high or it was too low. Or if they got it right, tell them they got it right and how many guesses it took. If you make a guess that's out of range, either you make a guess less than 1 or greater than 100 or non-numeric, don't count that as a valid guess. All right. And that's pretty much everything that's in there. I gave you this, so if you want to see how to create a random number in JavaScript, you can go to that URL if you want to find out. All right, but that's pretty much it for the explanation. So just as before, we will declare and initialize our program constants. And then in a bit, we will declare and initialize our program variables. All right, so let's start here. And I said min guess and set that equal to 1. And that is a minimum guess to make. And then we have max guess, and that's going to be equal to 100, and that's going to be the maximum. We'll say legal guess to make. All right, legal. Okay. Then we'll add some string constants. We didn't have to do this, but I'm going to try to do it. So I'm going to put all my stuff I have to really type at the top here. Excuse me. So I created about a half dozen or so string constants. So I've got this, and I call this ill guess. And what does that mean? It's an illegal guess. So I'm going to say illegal guess must be a number between 1 and 100. Now, I could come in and change this and say it must be between this and this. So I could use min guess and max guess. I'm not, but I could if we really wanted to. All right. I have another const I call TGO, and that's going to stand for the guess of. That's it. That's all it stands for. You'll see why we're using that later. Const too high, and that's going to be equal to was too high. All right. And then another const, too low, and that's going to be equal to was too low. And another one that's called correct, and that's going to say was correct in. And finally, all right, I have one last one that I created called PTA, which is going to say, please try again. All right, so those are my 8, I think it is, constants that I have. Okay, all right, then let's go into our variables. And again, I've got probably around the same number. And I could come in here and add comments for these, illegal. But I'm thinking that it's pretty obvious what this stands for by showing you the text that's in here. All right. So let's put in these. So let guess, we'll set that equal to 0. I'm just gonna, whoops, that's just, again, I could set it to anything. So total guesses, that's gonna be equal to 0. And then our old again, and that's gonna be equal to the empty string. First char, and that's gonna be equal to the empty string. And our run again. And I've said this to you before, there is nothing special about these words that I'm using. All right. There's nothing special about again or first char, etc. Okay. So the first thing that I want to do before I do anything, all right, before I do anything is I need a random number when I first start. And I'm going to say here, let, and I called it random for random number, call it anything you want. And I'm going to say that's equal to math.floor, math.random times 100 plus 1. Now, do I expect that to make a boatload of sense to most of you? No. But what this does right here, just this part that's in blue, that creates a random number that's greater than or equal to 0, 0. All right. And it's less than 1. So it creates a decimal number between 0 and 0.9999999, etc. Then I take that number, multiply it by 100, all right, and then take whatever is left for the math.floor. It says throw away any decimal place that's in there after I multiply it by 100. That's what this does. And then add 1 to it. That will allow us, that will generate a random number that is between 1 and 100. I guess for lack of better words, you'll have to take my word for it. If you don't like my explanation, go back out again to that URL and they will show you how it works. All right. Okay, so just like we did before, I'm going to say while, run again. And again, we're going to put everything in here. So again, what do we want to do? Well, we want to start out by making a guess. All right, so we're going to do that in just a second. Then we have to validate the guess. All right, because if they put in hello, that won't make a lot of sense. All right. Next, we have to figure out the status of a valid guess. And that is one of 3 things. That is either it was too low, it was too high, all right, or we got it right. Then we have to, just like we had done earlier, we have to prompt user to run program again. All right. And unlike before, once they're done, there's nothing else to do. All right. I have to tell you, I'm in my kitchen this morning. I'm usually not There's a reason for it. I don't want to get into it, but if you hear any barking, it's my dog. I'll stop her right away, but I'm apologizing ahead of time. So let's do this. So first we want to make our guess. All right. So I'm going to say here, guess. We've already got a let guess, I believe. Yep, right there. So I can come in here and just say guess equal. All right. And I'm going to do a parse int prompt. And I'm going to say make a guess between, just like we did before. We'll make this look a little nicer. This again, plus, and we'll put in here min guess and max guess. And we can default a number in there, so I'll put in 50. It's not a bad number to start with. It's right in the middle. All right, now we have to validate the guess. So while very similar to what we did before, well, is NaN guess, or we put in a guess that's out of range, so one that's less than min guess, or we've got a guess that is greater than max guess. So if any one of those things are true, we have put in an out of range guess. Since it's an out of range guess, all right, we want to alert the user that it was an illegal guess. We've already got that, so it's called ill guess. So I can just come in here and first say, let's see, alert, ill guess. All right. And we didn't, no, we just said the guess of. I could have had something for this too. In other words, it might have made sense to put that into some kind of a constant. I didn't, but we could have. All right. So I just want to tell them to guess again. Like that. Now I'm going to do this a little different than the last one I did. And what I mean is, all right, I'm going to come in here and at the bottom, I'm just going to come in here and say, run again, equal false. I don't want to put this into an infinite loop, but I want to test what I've done so far. So file, save all. And there's three things that can be wrong here. If I put in something non-numeric, it should just ask me illegal guess and ask me to do it again. If I leave it blank, illegal guess and ask me to do it again. If I put in a number that's out of range, illegal guess and ask me to do it again. And if I put in a number that's out of range the other way, illegal guess and ask me to do it again. If I put in a number that's in range, all right, well, it's still saying legal guess. We'll have to fix that. All right, it's weird because that's the same kind of junk that happened before. All right. All right, and it looked like when we did this, it wasn't showing us that 50 either, which is weird. All right, but I'm just going to keep going. We'll eventually get this to work, and eventually I will put this out there so you can all see whatever it is, or what it is that I've been doing. Now, if I get down to here, I had a valid guess. Because if I didn't, I'm stuck in this loop. All right, because it was not numeric, or it was less than the minimum, or it was greater than the maximum. So since I do have a valid guess, I can add 1 to my total guesses. All right. And now I can check the guess status. Okay. So let's do this. All right. Now we'll figure out the status. So as we get started here then, now I could check right away to see if you got it right. Think about this though, that if we're running this for the first time, there's a 1 out of 100 chance I'm getting it right. All right. And I've shown this kind of thing before, Grant. You probably have seen it, but I think it's important for you to realize. And I'm going to make this up. So I'm going to just say 73. So let's say that's the number that was generated. So it says make a guess. And I say 50. And they say too low. Well, what does that mean? That means that every number between 1 and 50 is eliminated. So in one guess, I've removed 50 possibilities. All right. So there's 50 left. So I come in and I guess half of what I had before. And between 50 and 1 or 51 and 100, I say 75. And now, after I do that, they come back and they say too high. So now in two guesses, 1 to 50 and 75 to 100 have all been eliminated. All right. So I've eliminated 75 possibilities in just two guesses. So I go half again. And I know that now it's got to be between 51 and 74. So I guess again. And that's approximately what? Let's just say I guess 65. All right. And again, I'm told too low. Now in three guesses, 1 to 65 and 75 to 100 have all been eliminated. All right. So the number has to be between 66 and 74. So I've got 9 possibilities only after making about 3 or 4 guesses. So again, I'm going to cut it about in the middle and I'll say 70. And again, I'm told that's too low. All right. So now I know that 1 to 70 and 70 to 75 have all been eliminated. So it's got to be either 71, 72, 73, or 74. So I'm going to get 72. And again, I'm going to be told too low. So now one to 72 have been eliminated and 75 to 100 have been eliminated. So I know it's one of 3 numbers. It's either 73, it's 74, it's 75. Well, I'll take the one in the middle, even though it's wrong, and I'll say 74, and it comes back too high. All right, so now I know 1 to 74 and, 1 to 72 and 74 to 100 have been eliminated. So what I'm telling you is, no matter what you guess, and no matter how bad you are, if you can always use halves like this, what did I guess? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should be able to always get it within, that was 6. But if I come in here now and say 73, that's correct in 7 guesses. All right. Now, this may not sound like much and you may not care, but I played this game when I used to take car rides with my kids, but we'd use really big numbers and I didn't tell them about this. They could never understand. We do like between 1 and 1,000 and I'd get it real fast and they would just keep guessing. All right. But I just wanted you to see the logic that's going on in here. That's all I cared about. So if the guess is less than the random number, well, we guess something that's too low. I'll do an alert and it's going to say TGO, and that is the guess of plus guess plus too low plus please try again. All right, that's all those constants that I used before. Else, if guess is greater than the random number, all right, alert the guess of plus guess plus too high plus please try again. Otherwise, they got it right. So else, so we could, don't have to, we could add a little comments here, like guess too low. And then down here, we can say guess too high. And then down here, we can say guess correct. All right. So I'm going to come in here and again say alert TGO for the guess of plus guess plus correct plus correct plus total guesses plus, oops, try that again. Total guesses plus guesses. All right. So the only thing that's left now is to ask them if they want to do it again. And then we're finished. All right. So again, I'm going to say again, equal prompt. And we will say run program again with our yes and our no. We will again default it to yes, so we can just hit enter. And what doesn't it like? It does not like that I need one here. Don't need one there. There we go. All right. And again, equals again dot to uppercase. And first char equals char at. Again dot char at. Look at that 0th character. And if first char is not equal to y, we will set our run again equal to false. That should be everything. Let's try it and see what happens. Again, it's possible I've made mistakes in here. So let's, again, it's not giving this that for 50. I don't know why. All right, something is screwed up. So let's see if we can figure out what it is. Prompt. Yeah, it's not liking when I'm putting something in there for some reason. I don't know why. All right, I mean, I could put it in there as a string. I don't think that's going to change anything. Need that comma back, but let's try that and see what that does. Still isn't showing it though. And it's saying illegal guess. I don't know why it's doing that. So make a legal guess. It should say there between 1 and 100. Let's see if that fixed it or not. Okay, it says the guess of 50 was too high. Please try again. I could use a line break there. I can fix that in a bit. All right, so that was too high. So let's try 25. And it doesn't like something. Huh. Let's go back and look. All right. So let's see. Please try again. I'll put a line break before that, so that'll fix that. All right. If the guess was less than the random number, too low, greater than the random number, too high. Okay. All right. Well, there's a few things missing here. Hopefully you figured them out. Okay. Now, when I get done with all these, I'm still in my same turn, so to speak. I don't want to ask yet if they want to do it again. No. All right. What I want to do is I want to come in here and I want to put this into another while loop. So I'm going to say while, and we'll create another variable up here. And I screwed up on mine. I'm going to call this, let's see, wrong number. Maybe that's a crummy name, but we're going to use that anyway. And I'm going to set that equal to true. All right. So I'm going to come in here and say while wrong number. All right. So the first time through there, it's just going to tell us to make a guess, which is totally fine. All right. But I'm going to have to change that in here. So while wrong number, boom, let me get my curly brace in here. Curly brace in there. My ending curly brace will have to go down near the bottom here. Not there, but here. All right. So we make our guess. If it was wrong, we do the alert. It'll fall. Eventually, hopefully it'll be okay. We'll add 1 to our total guesses. If it's wrong, we do that. All right, if it's wrong, we do that. If it's right, we want to do 2 things here. All right, first of all, we want to say wrong number equal false because we put the right number in. All right, then there's 2 more things we want to do. We want to set our number of guesses, our total guesses, back to 0, and we want to generate a new random number. All right, now, could I have screwed up and could there still be something missing here? It's me, so yes, of course, that's a possibility. But let's take a look at it now. All right, so 50. Guess was too high, please try again. All right, 25. The guess was too high, please try again. 13. The guess was too low. So now in 3 guesses, it is either 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, or 24. I've eliminated, and now I've gotten rid of 89 out of the 100 possibilities. Not bad in 2 guesses. So 18 was too low. 13 was too low. Let's try 18. That was too low. So now it's 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, or 24. Now it's down to 6. Let's try 22. That was too low. So it's either 23 or it's 24. All right, so the guess of 23 was correct in 6 guesses. Now it should, if that run the program again. Yes. Well, that isn't good. So let's check on that. It's almost finished. Then we'll take another break. All right. So we're down in here. All right. Now, what I can do, I can make wrong number false there, but this total guesses and this setting the random number, I can do those in here now. Because this is what happens when I want to run the program again. So total guesses has been reset and random number has been reset, which should push me back up to here. All right. Even though run again should be true, I'll still say run again, equal true. Let's see if it likes that. So file, save all, play the game again. Oh, didn't like something. Try it again. All right. So it was correct in 7 guesses. Do I want to run the program again? Yes. Well, now it's in an infinite loop. All right, we'll fix that in just a moment. In fact, it is 10:03. Let's take till 10:15. We'll finish this up. I have another short, and it's a lot shorter program that I want to show you with numeric arrays, and then we'll call it a period. But we'll be done hopefully by no later than 10:45. I'll see you in 12 minutes at 10:15. All right, let's finish this up then. Discovered what the problem was. It wasn't difficult, just silly mistake on my part. And that is, in here, I added two things. The first is I had to make sure that if it was valid, I had to add wrong number equal true, because I had set wrong number equal to false once I guessed it correctly up here. So it was coming up and it was saying wrong number was false. So it was just asking me right away again, do you want to run it again? Do you want to run it again? So I fixed that. And then I also put in here, in between the two while loops, I put in an alert statement that said new game starting now. So just so you see this, if I run it again, it says right away, new game starting now. So I'm going to come in and as always, 50, too low, 75. So that's two guesses, too low, 87. That's three guesses that are too low, 96. It's four guesses that are too low, 98. I got it right in five guesses. All right. And now when it says, do you want to play it again? And I say yes, it lets me know a new game is starting. Okay. So as far as I know, at least, that's all working now and everything is fine there. Okay. We'll find out in a couple minutes, I guess. So finally, I want to go and do one more problem for you, and this will be quick. All right. Especially compared to the other ones. All right. And that is this thing I call number array. I'm going to leave it as index, etc. I'm going to leave all that stuff in there. And let's just right mouse click and open it with code. All right, so I've now got that one there, and let me close these other ones that are open. Make it a little easier for us to see what's going on. Okay, and so there it is. Okay, and it's just called number fun. It could be called anything. It doesn't really matter. We've got our script statement in the body. So let's go in and write our script. So notice what this says. This is a JavaScript program, which will generate and print out a 25 element random number array. So in other words, it's going to create an array with 25 random numbers in it. So it's possible that we could have the same number repeated several times or never. All right. And then it'll determine and print out the smallest array element, the largest array element, the sum of all 25 array elements, and the average by taking the sum and dividing it by 25. All right. So like I said, this is not a long program at all. Sometimes when you create an array, you'll make something called size or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to set that equal to 25. And as always, let's come in here and say declare and initialize program constant. It's my only constant. And then let's come in and declare and initialize the program variables. And there's a few of these, 4 or 5. So I'm going to say let numbers equal new array of what size? Of size. So that's going to make a new array of size 25. I'm going to let, and this may not make a lot of sense right now, but we'll talk about it in a moment. I'm going to let the smallest, remember my range is numbers between 1 and 100. I'm going to make smallest 101, and I'm going to make largest equal to, let's make it equal to -1. And we'll go over why in just a minute. I'm going to let the sum be equal to 0. And I'm going to let the average, I'll just call it AVG, could call it average, it doesn't matter. I'm going to make that equal to 0.0. So those are all my variables. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to come in here and randomly, I should just say, generate array of 25 random numbers between 1 and 100, like that. We get rid of this, so we get a little more room that we're playing with. Okay, so here's our loop. So for let I equals 0, I less than numbers dot length, which will, well, it's less than 25, so 0 to 24, plus I. All right. So what do we want to do in here? Well, we want to create 25 random numbers. So numbers I, so our current number, is equal to, just like we did before, math.floor, math.random times 100 plus 1. That'll give us our 25 random numbers. That's what we've done right now. All right. Now, we want to figure out the smallest and we want to figure out the largest. Now, notice I set smallest equal to 101. What that means is, since all the numbers we're generating are going to be between 1 and 100, the first number we generate will automatically be smaller than smallest. It'll automatically be larger than largest. So the first one will automatically become both the smallest and the largest. All right. So I'm going to come in here and say, if the current number, which is numbers LCV, if it's less than smallest, well, then we know we've got a new smallest number. So smallest equals numbers LCV. LCV should be I. Sorry, I'm so used to doing mine with LCV. All right, so numbers I. Then we run the same test, but for largest. So we'll put in here, generate random numbers. Check for new smallest number. And this then will be check for new largest number. And this will have to, instead of being less than smallest, it'll have to be greater than largest. All right, then if that's the case, then largest is equal to that. All right, so we don't have much left. Okay, now we have to add the add value of current array element to sum. So sum plus equal numbers I. All right. Now, that's all we want to do in here. That's all we want to do. We don't want to do the average until we're finished. All right. So now that we've fallen out of this for loop, now that we're out of it, now we can calculate the average. All right. Now, if I do this, AVG equals sum divided by numbers dot length, I'm probably not going to get what I expect, because what I'm doing here is I am going and taking and dividing a number, an integer or whole number, which is sum, by the number of elements, which is also a sum. So I'm dividing an int by an int. So that's an integer, and so is that. And even if there's a decimal, since it's an int divided by an int, it throws away the remainder, which I might want in here. So there's different ways around this. I could make this equal to 0.0. I could come in and I could divide this by 1.0, or I could come in and do what's called cast. And I could say, you know what? For now, since you're on the right-hand side of an equal sign, pretend that this is a float. All right. But there really is no, I don't think it'll take this. So there is no real float in here. So I can't say like parse float. It won't take that. It doesn't like that. So what I'm going to do is, and what I did on mine was I did take this and I divided it by 1.0. All right. Okay. Now, I can come out and I can print in my largest, I can print my smallest, I can print my sum, I can print my average. But if you remember up here, it says it will generate and print out all 25 numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my for loop that I did earlier, and I'm going to say here, print out all elements in random number array. All right, so do that 25 times. So what do I want to do in here? Well, how about if we come back and like we've been doing, we let output str equal the empty string. All right. And now we can say output str plus equal the current array element, which is numbers I, and then let's put a blank space in between each one, just like that. So that'll print out the numbers. All right. But now we want to also print out the smallest number, the largest number, what else? The smallest number, the largest number, and the average. Okay. So let's see. In fact, could we do this? I don't know. Could we come in here and do a template literal? Like that. We're not getting an error, so I'm thinking that that is correct. We'll see in just a moment. All right, I did put a blank space here. All right, so output str plus equal. Now we can say the smallest number in the array is, and we can put in smallest. All right, and that'll give us the smallest. And let's copy this 2 more times. And now we can say the largest is going to be, and finally, the average is going to be average. But let's do a 2 fixed on that to 2 decimal places. All right. In fact, one thing we didn't have in here is the sum. So let's put the sum in there too. Okay, and that'll be just sum. All right. And let's see if it works. Oh, I never told it to, I never told it here to alert output str. Okay, let's see if that gives me some output. Well, doesn't like something. One error. Number is not defined, so it should be numbers, and at least one time I made it number. There's numbers. That is numbers there, but one of these output statements must say number. Nope. Output string, numbers. That should be numbers right there. See if that was it. Should be. So let's file, save all, run it one more time. Well, that's screwed up. The smallest number is 7. The largest number is 97. The sum is 1294. The average is 5176. So it's not printing them out correctly. We'll fix that right now. I think I know what that is. All right. As I did before what I just told you not to do. And that is, it did not like this. All right. So I'm just going to say plus equals number sub I plus a blank space like that. Let's see if that fixes everything. All right, so there's our numbers. The smallest number is 9. So looking here, there's a 9. Looks like that's right. The largest number is 97. There's a 97. That looks right. The sum is 1317. 1317 divided by 25 should give us 52.68. So that's it. So what I've attempted to do here today is to go over this pretest much, much, much harder than your actual test will be tomorrow. Again, some of you may finish this test tomorrow in a half an hour. All right. But let me do a file save here. Close this one more time. Close this. Close this. Again, this is JS pretest number 1. I'm hoping that's what I just called the GitHub during the repo during the break. JS pretest -1. Okay, I've got that. So now I should be able to come in here and come on. All right, and do my git. I don't know. I thought I did a git add already, but I may not have. Git add dot. And there it is. So you now have the BMI, the guess, and the number array programs, and they are going to be in a repo that's going to have that name, and I'll send that to you. So Grant, unless you have any other questions, again, I will email you guys all the tests. You will have it by 7 a.m. tomorrow. If you want to look at it, start working on it first. And at 8 o'clock till about 8:05 rather, till about 8:15, I will go over the test with you. Any last questions, Grant?
Not today. No, thank you.
Okay, sounds great. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a good day.
Thanks, you too.